It was a long drive from the airport to my house, and my mind was racing as I navigated the freeway. Let me backtrack to explain what had me thinking so hard. I'd been in Denver all week for a conference, and on Thursday, my best friend Alistair called to tell me he was getting a divorce. His exact words were that woman has been cheating on me. I've thrown her out of the house, and I'm sure she'll end up spending the night at your place. Now, Kathy staying at my place wasn't unusual. She and my wife, Maria, often stayed with each other whenever one of us was traveling. If I was away, Kathy would stay with Maria, and if Alistair was gone, it was the reverse. We were like four peas in a pod, friends since high school. The thought of either of us cheating on our spouses was unimaginable. I travel for work about 2 weeks each month, and although I try to bring Maria on trips whenever possible, it doesn't happen often. Realistically, I'm the one with the most chances to stray, but I haven't. Not once. He told me that he decided to visit my house where Kathy and Maria were staying early in the morning to have breakfast with them, and upon reaching there, he found a man having breakfast with the two of them. As he observed from the patio, he could see Kathy and the man being all amorous with each other. Maria was laughing and talking with the man as if he had been a friend all her life. The best part was that Kathy was sitting in the man's lap as they had breakfast, and he was dressed only in boxer shorts. Now, I am not a prude, if anything. But to hear that a man was sitting on my breakfast table in his boxer shorts when I was away was a little too liberal for me. I would not take kindly of it was Alistair, who I trust with my life. So taking this in my stride was very difficult, to say the least. But before anything, I had to get the whole story. As I entered the house, I saw Kathy sitting in the living room watching television as if nothing was wrong. Maria was nowhere to be seen, but since her car was in the garage, I was sure she was home. "Hey, Kathy, how are you?" I asked her as if I knew nothing about what had happened. "I'm all right. How was trip? Maria is in the shower and she should be down shortly." I sat down on the couch and took my shoes off. "How is Alistair?" "The a-hole has not called me the whole week. We were to play golf this weekend. Do you know if it is still on?" Kathy answered my question vaguely. "If he has not called to cancel it, I'm sure it must still be on." Maria came down shortly and surveyed the situation before welcoming me and asking me if I wanted breakfast. As we went to the kitchen, Maria told me that Kathy and Alistair had a fight due to some misunderstanding, and Kathy would be staying with us till Alistair came to his senses. "He better come to his senses," I said, and whipped out my cell phone. I dialed Alistair and asked him to come over. He protested at first, but when I insisted, he agreed. You see, he has implicit faith in me too. After keeping the phone down, I finished the breakfast. Maria, meanwhile, had gone to the living room and I could hear an animated discussion going on there. As I stepped into the living room, I could see that Kathy was on the verge of crying. Maria turned to me and said, "You should not have called Alistair. Kathy is not sure if she is sure to face him. It is not our place to meddle in their affairs. I am not meddling in their affair. When you took Kathy in after Alistair threw her out, it was out of concern. What I am doing is also out of concern. After all, it is only a misunderstanding. I am sure that we will all be having a laugh about this before the day is over," I retorted. Just then, the doorbell rang and I opened the door and asked Alistair to come in. As he entered the living room, Maria and Kathy stood up. As we settled, I asked Alistair what the misunderstanding was. "The only misunderstanding that I know of was in the mind of Kathy. Kathy misunderstood how I would react after learning that she has been hanging horns on me for about a year. Come on, don't be crazy. Kathy would never do such a deceitful, disgusting thing ever in her whole life. I was going to milk the occasion as much as I could. Kathy could use some comeuppance now. You remember how she reacted when you had a dance with the busty blonde when we were on vacation in Hawaii? Someone who has such low tolerance for a third party would never be a party to a cruel and hurtful thing. Moreover," I continued, "Maria would nip it in the bud even if Kathy had such an idea. Maria would not just sit around and watch as your dreams are trampled and the lives of your children are set adrift on a leaky boat in a stormy sea." I turned to Kathy. "Why aren't you saying something?" Alistair interjected. How will she say anything, Ben? I have evidence. I have photographs of her sitting on the lap of man wearing a boxer short. He took out his cell phone and showed me the first picture. This is my house. I thundered for effect and turned towards Maria. Will you let me know what misunderstanding has caused Alistair to throw Kathy out? Maria stood quietly. She had no answer to offer. Where were you while this was going on? She was right there, talking to them and serving them breakfast, Alistair informed. And where was your stud? I asked Maria. She gasped as her eyes widened. She suddenly realized my line of thinking and spoke up. There is no one. Believe me, Ben. I have never, ever been with another man. I could never cheat on you. I respect you too much and love you too much. Do anything like this. It was only Kathy who used to have her lover over, and believe me that I protested. I could not rat on my best friend, so I kept quiet. I have no reasons to believe you. Even if I do believe you, why should I live with someone who condones such blatant disregard for marital vows? I looked at Kathy, who was crying hysterically, and then at Maria and said, I hope you have a third friend who is more accommodating, because tonight, neither of you are sleeping in this house. I am not saying that it is end of the line for my marriage, but it does look like it. Kathy, I hope and pray that Alistair never so much as looks at you again. He is young and he will have no problem finding a suitable person to spend his life with. Even you will be able to find a man who believes in open marriage if this stud of yours doesn't work out. Now it was the turn of Maria to shed some tears. Alistair and I will be at the golf course till 4:00 in the evening. When we return, you better be gone with this cheater, so this is it. You would not even ask for the reason why I cheated? Kathy asked. Will it make any difference, Kathy? What is lost, and that is my trust in you and my trust in my ability to keep you happy. Do you really want to have a husband who will be checking on you every single moment of your life? I know you will say right now that you will not mind it, but in a few years, when your guilt will be lesser, you will feel caged and my mistrust would make you run away. Let's break it clean so that I can move on. Kathy and Maria stood speechless as we walked out. Maria must have been wondering what hit her. If she had actually not cheated, the price she was about to pay for a character flaw was enormous. Let's check the story from Maria's side. I sat wondering what just happened. I had done nothing wrong. I was not the one who was cheating. How could this happen to her? All that I am guilty of was supporting my friend at a time when I should not have. As I packed my overnight bag, my heart was breaking. Never in 1,000 nights did this dream come to me that I would be in a situation as hopeless as this. There was number doubt in my mind that the marriage would survive if Ben gave me a chance to explain things. However, survival of the trust and ease in the marriage was under severe doubt. Kathy was no help in the state that she was. I had to decide where to go, and I decided on a small motel not too far from my house. It was a nice, comfortable motel, but sleep was far from my eyes. I just kept crying, thinking about how stupid I had been. While I was not very enthusiastic about Kathy cheating on Alistair, I had gone along after Kathy convinced me that she was still in love with Alistair and was doing it just for a little thrill. The rationale did not go well with me, but I strung along because I would not dare to let Kathy meet Simon at a motel where the chances of her getting caught and hurting Alistair were more. I could, of course, think of a million reasons why Ben would not trust me. I had, after all, been hiding such a big secret from him. I was an accessory to the adultery and would be tried such in the court of life. I had no clue what would happen to me. We have no children, and Ben has no reason to stick with me if his faith is shaken. I know Ben better than anyone in this whole wide world. For him, words like loyalty, honor, love, promise are not just words. They are the basics on which a man's dignity rides. He would never give you a false word, and he would never deceive anyone. My straight as an arrow, Ben would look at this incident as a betrayal of his belief in me, and also that of Alistair in the morning. I tried calling Ben, but he never picked up the phone. For me, it was imperative that I got hold of him. I called up his office only to be told that he had taken a week's leave and was away from the town. I tried calling up Alistair to explain matters to him, but it was futile as well. Although Alistair did pick up the phone once, but he hung up as soon he realized that it was I. Meanwhile, Kathy was inconsolable. Her marriage had ended without any ray of hope left. Kathy never did study beyond high school because of the death of her parents. Being all alone in the world after their death, she was taken care of by Alistair's parents, who were not too rich to begin with. They did take good care of her, but could not afford to send her to college or arrange for any higher education for her. Since Alistair was an extremely good provider, she never did need to work. But I worked all my life, despite the fact that Ben was a very successful guy. Now Kathy had nowhere to turn to. All that she would have to live on would be the money from settlement after divorce. She had no skills apart from cooking that could get her a job. I tried to be positive for the first 2 days and still hoped that once Ben felt he had punished me enough, he would come back. That positive attitude vanished as soon as I was served with divorce papers. The reason listed was incorrigible difference. For more than 8 years, I've invested my heart and soul into my marriage and have tried to be a good wife to him. I was not just his wife, I was also his best friend. Of course, there have been highs and lows in any relationship, but we fought with and for each other to stay together, and we're planning to do that forever. Ben is a loving and caring husband and an extremely good lover. So why did I lie to him? Well, technically I did not lie to him. All I did was not tell the truth. I can understand how his relationship with Alistair was put under test here. If our marriage survived, his friendship would not. Alistair could never bear to look at my face again. Not just Alistair. All of Ben's friends would look at me as an individual who condoned adultery. My social life was going to change drastically no matter what the outcome. I called up Ben after receiving the divorce papers, and surprisingly, he picked up the phone. I need to talk to you. I think you were taking it a little too far. If you talk to me, it would become clear to you. I begged him for an opportunity to talk. If nothing else, I deserve a few minutes of your time. Why don't you come over to the house? We can talk over a coffee. He sounded calm, and that was something that I could see as a positive sign. Maybe, just maybe, he was through tormenting me and would give in after a bit of groveling on my part. Let's check the story from Ben's side. I did not know what to do, honestly. This lie was not something we could not get past. After all, she was not the one who was cheating. My problem was not with her lies. It is not like I have never lied to her. Spouses speak convenient lies to each other all the time. My problem was not that at all. My problem was with the moral stand that she had taken. If she had kept Kathy's indiscretion a secret and worked on breaking her habit of chasing after unsuitable men, that would have made sense to me. That would have made great sense to me. And I would have respected that. How was I to respect what she had done? I was lost in these thoughts when Maria's car came to a stop in our drive. She stepped out of the car and waited for a moment before walking towards the main door. She was modestly dressed. At least she was trying to subvert the whole conversation with her sexual charm. I waited for her to walk in the door, but she stopped and rang the bell. I guess she was more unsure of me than I was. My plan was to unsettle her as soon as she came in. That was not required. She had a tear in her eye and was looking lost. Despite her best attempt to look composed, I could see that she was barely holding herself together. "Thank you for meeting with me." She spoke in almost a whisper as we sat down. "I would like to hear your rationale behind lying to me. I am most interested in knowing how can you justify that this day forward you've ruined everything that we have worked for in the last 8 years. She slowly but sternly started speaking. "I have done nothing wrong for our marriage. Yes, I have broken your trust, but I have not broken any of my marital vows. I still respect you and love you with all my heart. I have not once doubted your or my devotion to this marriage. What I am guilty of is a bad judgment when it came to an affair in which I was not a party. I am guilty of hiding something from you that most women would have hidden from their husband anyway. She is not the first woman we know who has cheated, and almost in all the cases I have known about the affairs much before you have. You never questioned why I did not disclose it to you as soon as I found out. You were just not into these things. She paused for a moment and then went on. I know this was different for you because Alistair is a very close friend of yours, but you have to realize that Kathy is a very close friend of mine. I have not condoned her affair, but I had to do something to keep this affair a secret. While I tried to make Kathy see some sense, if she would have met her boyfriend at some motel, then the grapevine would have reached Alistair's ears, and I did not want that to happen. Whatever I was doing was the best course of action in my opinion. Had I known it would cost me so dearly, I would have left Kathy and her sordid affair alone. Despite all my efforts, I had not been able to break Kathy's affair. I guess Alistair did not satisfy her in the bed at all. That is what she said when I asked her why this was even necessary. She did promise me that when this affair would run its course, she would go back to being a faithful wife to Alistair. All that I wanted to do was save their marriage one way or the other. As she paused, I realized that in her own way, she was trying to do what she supposed was best for Kathy and Alistair. My lack in faith was just that, my lack in faith. It was my faith that needed a reboot. I know what she did was wrong. She should have discussed it with me. She should have kept me in the loop. Was I ready to throw a perfectly good marriage over her half-baked idea about Kathy's affair? I don't think so. What I was sure of was a very pissed-off Alistair when I would tell him tomorrow that I was asking Maria to move back in. In his eyes, she was guilty by association. I'm not sure if I disagree with him. All I know is that I am way too selfish to let Maria slip away just to satisfy Alistair. I had asked, essentially, that Maria put out marriage ahead of her friendship with Kathy. Shouldn't I be doing the same by keeping our marriage ahead of my friendship with Alistair? I doubt that many of you would call Maria a culprit. She was a victim of her own botched-up design, but she was not a culprit by any stretch of imagination. Maybe this will come back to bite me in the butt, but I will be looking actively into that possibility. I'm still not sure how loose her moral fibers have become in the push and pull of Kathy's affair. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.